Prince Harry's legal battle with Britain's most powerful newspaper groups has now entered its 6th year, and the stakes have never been higher. This is not simply a celebrity lawsuit. It is a confrontation over truth, accountability, and the limits of media influence in the United Kingdom. At the centre is a claim that strikes at the heart of press ethics. Harry alleges that private investigators and journalists working for major tabloid publishers acquired his most personal information through unlawful means, phone interception, obtaining data by deception, and covert tracking. For years, these suspicions hovered in the background of royal coverage. Unexplained leaks, stories that appeared in the press despite being known only to a tiny circle, and a pattern of invasions into the lives of not just Harry, but those around him. The legal process has slowly turned those suspicions into structured allegations backed by the High Court. But just as the case is moving closer to trial, Channel 4's Dispatches programme released a documentary that sparked immediate backlash across social media, independent press circles, and among legal commentators. The documentary appeared to reshape a wide-ranging, multi-claimant legal action into a portrait of Prince Harry alone, reducing a complex case to a familiar trope: a royal battling the press as part of a personal grievance. Prince Harry is one of several claimants suing Associated Newspapers Limited, the parent company of the Daily Mail and Mail on Sunday. Alongside him are Sir Elton John, Elizabeth Hurley, Sadie Frost, Doreen Lawrence and others. Each alleges a pattern of unlawful information gathering that extends back decades, involving phone interception, obtaining medical and financial data unlawfully, and tracking individuals through private security contractors. When the High Court ruled earlier this year that substantial parts of the case must go to trial, it was not a gesture of sympathy. The threshold for these claims is exceptionally high. The judge must be convinced that there is enough evidence to justify a full trial. After reviewing witness statements, records, internal documents, and past inquiries, the court determined that the claims cleared that threshold. The case is heading toward a trial scheduled for early 2026. What is unusual about the Dispatches programme is releasing a documentary casting doubt on witness credibility before a court has assessed the evidence. The documentary aired weeks before a key procedural hearing and months before the trial, precisely when judges and lawyers are preparing to test the claims in detail. Legal analysts noted the programme highlighted disputes surrounding some witnesses, but provided little context about whether those disputes actually undermine the broader case. One of the most persistent criticisms is the documentary's disproportionate focus on Prince Harry. Although he is one of several plaintiffs, the programme treated him as the sole protagonist. Elton John's extensive allegations were barely mentioned. Elizabeth Hurley's claims received almost no explanation. Doreen Lawrence, a mother whose life has been shaped by her pursuit of justice, did not receive the depth of coverage her involvement warrants. When a case includes so many high-profile and credible voices focusing narrowly on one person, especially a royal figure who has been relentlessly targeted by the press risks, creating the impression that the lawsuit is personal rather than systemic. That impression benefits only one side, the publisher facing the allegations. British tabloids hold extraordinary influence. They shape political debate, royal narratives, and cultural attitudes. That kind of power requires scrutiny. Yet critics argue that the documentary created an imbalance. Instead of examining the tabloid industry itself or the systemic patterns at issue, the programme appeared to cast doubt primarily on the claimants. This does not mean the documentary sided with the tabloids, but it does suggest an editorial approach that leaned heavily towards skepticism of the allegations. The lawsuit against associated newspapers is not about celebrity gossip. It concerns years of intrusions that allegedly affected ordinary people as well as public figures. Prince Harry's involvement gives the case visibility, but he is not the first or only person to claim that tabloid culture crossed legal and ethical boundaries. Past inquiries, most notably the Leveson inquiry, exposed extensive wrongdoing across the industry through hacking, deception, and exploitation. This trial may finally bring unresolved questions into the open. Did associated newspapers knowingly or unknowingly rely on information gathered unlawfully? Were private investigators instructed to target individuals without ethical safeguards? How deep did these practices run, and how long did they persist? It is these questions, not Harry's popularity or his relationship with the monarchy, that matter most. The reaction to the Dispatch's documentary was immediate. Social media filled with comments from viewers who felt the program was incomplete or selective. Legal experts expressed concern about how the documentary may influence public perception ahead of trial. Several UK publications ran their own headlines responding to the controversy. The New European, iNews, the Press Gazette, Byline Times, and The Independent published articles questioning the timing and editorial choices of the programme. This broader media reaction demonstrates that skepticism about the programme did not originate solely from Harry's supporters. It came from across the spectrum, from journalists, campaigners, lawyers, and ordinary viewers. Legal cases of this magnitude unfold slowly. Evidence is examined, challenged, and debated. A documentary, however, condenses years of events into a single narrative. And because of its platform, it can significantly influence how viewers interpret a case before a judge has spoken. A broadcast suggesting gaps or contradictions can shape beliefs long before the legal process begins. When defendants are powerful media organizations, early public impressions can have strategic value. To understand why people reacted so strongly, we need to step back. Britain has a long history of press misconduct investigations. From the phone hacking scandal of the early 2000s to the Leveson inquiry in 2012, revelations have repeatedly shown how deeply unethical practices became woven into newsroom culture. Journalists impersonating medical staff, private eyes bribing officials, phones hacked to obtain personal messages, these were not isolated incidents. They were patterns. It is in this historical context that Harry's case should be understood. Not as a lone prince seeking revenge, but as part of a broader reckoning with media behaviour, a reckoning that has been delayed for more than a decade. By zeroing in on Harry, the Dispatch's programme created a story viewers recognise, a famous royal challenging the press. But that story is incomplete. It omits the collective nature of the lawsuit, the extensive history behind it, and the evidence that has already convinced the High Court to proceed. Even more troubling for critics is that the documentary highlighted witness disputes without clarifying whether those disputes materially weaken the central allegations. Independent media outlets have spent years investigating alleged tabloid wrongdoing. They have pursued stories mainstream outlets avoided. So when dispatches appeared to cast doubt on aspects of the case without context, independent journalists viewed it as a step backward. They also saw it as a misunderstanding of who truly holds power in this situation. The claimants are individuals. The defendants are institutions. The imbalance is significant. While public perception matters, the trial will ultimately depend on evidence. The judge will examine documents, cross-examine witnesses, evaluate credibility, and determine whether unlawful information gathering occurred. But public narratives can influence how the outcome is received. This is why some critics believe the programme should have waited or at least approached the subject with more caution. The case is now entering its final stretch before trial. Procedural hearings will determine how evidence is presented, which documents are admissible, and how testimony will unfold. For the claimants, the coming months will involve intense preparation. For the defendants, the trial represents a direct challenge to their public denial of wrongdoing. For the public, it is an opportunity to understand the hidden structure of tabloid culture. Harry has been outspoken about his distrust of parts of the British press. But beyond his personal experiences, he has consistently framed the issue as one of public interest. If illegal news gathering targeted him, it likely targeted many others without the ability to fight back. This is what makes the case so consequential. When the judge allowed the case to proceed, the ruling emphasized that the evidence was substantial enough to require a full trial. The upcoming trial will test each allegation properly. It will examine communication logs, payment records, data trails, and past investigative practices. Both sides will present their arguments. The result will not be determined by documentaries, editorials, or social media debates, but by facts. The Dispatch's documentary may have shaped early perceptions, but the real judgment will come from the High Court. The backlash surrounding the programme underscores how sensitive and significant this case is. The coming months will reveal much more. Hearings will continue, documents will be examined, and the trial will approach. Until then, the most important thing is to remember what the case is truly about: the accountability of powerful institutions and the right of individuals to have their private lives protected from unlawful intrusion. This story is far from over. And as it unfolds, it will continue to challenge the relationship between the press, the public, and those who seek justice when lines are crossed.